people have to remember that a lot of times the way that an injury affects someone isn't going to be a part of the medical record.
Oh, exactly.
Because the medical record is going to be very objective. So the medical record may not say, well, this knee injury prevented someone from doing their household chores, or this knee injury prevented someone from going to their grandkids' soccer games, or this knee injury prevented them from going on golfing trips. And those are all important because the way that an injury affects someone and affects their life becomes compensable to some degree in the form of their damages. So, and the attorney isn't going to know those things unless the client provides that information.
Exactly.
And journaling is a great way to do it. And then, turning over those notes to the attorney at some point. What about pictures and video? Where can those be helpful?
Oh, those can definitely be helpful. And, usually in the initial consultation, we're going to discuss if there's any photos that you have of the scene or photos of your car or anything like that, or anything that you may have. Of course, the attorney is going to get as much evidence as they can throughout the whole process from, say, investigating officers or anything like that was on the scene. But anything that the client has is definitely going to be relevant. And a lot of times after that initial consultation, we'll set up a format for them to get all that to us. Those photos and stuff, so that we can record them and save them in our files, so that if someone loses their phone or anything like that, we can have those safely saved.
Yeah, and in addition to the property damage, I think, if there's a visible injury or bruising, or if someone's in the hospital, if someone has a cast, if there's a surgery, getting pictures of, sutures or braces or casts or anything like that. And the other thing that's really compelling, I think, is videos of physical therapy. To the layperson, I don't think there's a strong realization as to what physical therapy actually is, or how painful it can be, especially after, say, a rotator cuff repair. That's a very painful process. And if there's a video of that process, it helps describe it because, well, you don't have to describe it. It's on video. Physical therapy otherwise sounds like something that might actually be enjoyable. It's not.
No.
I think it's a good idea to have video of that as well.
Usually, unless you've gone through it, you don't understand how difficult some of those exercises may be.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying,
and how you have to, there's a wall of pain a lot of times that someone just has to push through. And that's
exactly
obviously very painful. Let's talk, speaking of medical treatment, let's talk a little bit more about that. And a question that I often encounter is, do I need to have my medical treatment approved?
Yes.
Or some folks almost assume that they have to have their medical treatment approved by somebody.
Yeah.
And so they wait. What should someone be doing with regards to their medical treatment?
So when you've hired an attorney, hopefully you now have the peace of mind knowing that, let's just say, all your rights are protected and that the business end of your claim with an insurance company is going to be taken care of. And that peace of mind should allow you to focus on yourself. A lot of times we tell clients that their focus is just to get better and we'll take care of everything else. And so that's the first thing to do, is really just focus on yourself. Now that should include also just following doctor's orders and going and getting the treatment that you feel you need, just as if the accident never happened.
Right.
If you just hurt yourself in some other way, just treating it like that, going to the doctor, following the doctor's orders, going to treatment centers if you need to, or, go to, specialists or whatever a doctor may require or request of you to do. So just following doctor's orders, and doing what is best for your body. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would add there too, though, when you're going through this, it's also critical for the client to keep up with those appointments. If you have something and you have to miss an appointment, that's one thing, but we don't need unexplained gaps in treatment, because unfortunately insurance companies and ultimately juries, that opens the door for them to have doubt as to whether or not you were injured or how severely you may have been injured. So it's critical to be following the doctor's orders, but also to be going to your appointments as you can, obviously. And then the final thing I would say, too, is just you have to update your attorney as to where you go.
Yeah.
We have to order medical records. We have to request those medical records, and those medical records are a critical part of our evidence for a case. So we have to make sure that we know where you go. So that's kind of the responsibilities, I would say, on the client, or what they should kind of keep an eye on is, one, just do what you think is best for your body, but also keep us updated and make sure that you're following your doctor's orders and doing what you can in a timely manner, so that we don't have any kind of arguments that we have to make, to try to spin anything like that, like an unexplained gap in treatment.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that if you're injured as a result of someone else's negligence, you don't have to wait for anyone to go get medical treatment.
Nope.
You can go get the treatment that you think you need,
Exactly,
that will benefit you and help you overcome your injury.
An auto accident is not like a workers' comp claim.
Yeah.
A workers' comp claim is controlled like that. But an accident claim, like you just said, it's your body. You do what you would see fit, and then we'll compile everything and send it off to the responsible party.
And I think it's also important to remember that if someone is not seeking treatment, and you alluded to this with the gaps in treatment, and this is where the assumption comes in. If someone is not seeking treatment, the assumption is that they're not hurt.
Yeah.
And unless there's evidence to the contrary, you can't really overcome that.
Exactly.
The medical records are the evidence that someone is hurt.
Exactly.
And so when treatment ends, or it doesn't occur, or there's a large gap in treatment, there's no evidence that that person was hurt during that time. And so I think it's important to remember that we always have the burden of proof. We have to prove that the injury exists.
Exactly.
We have to prove that the injury continues to exist if it's unresolved. And when someone is released from care, if there's no other indicators, the assumption is that when they were released because they're back to normal.
Yeah.
And so it's important to communicate that to the attorney as well. So if someone is released from care, they may not necessarily be well. They might not have improved to 100%. But unless that's communicated and we figure out a way to properly document it, the assumption is that the day that they were released, that means they were good. That's it. That's the end. So I think that's important too.